Alex, one of the things we spoke about on the previous video was the fact that, in the virtual environment, whether it's a customer meeting or an internal meeting, while some of the fundamentals of how you run the meeting may be similar, there are some clear differences. And one of the things we mentioned was technology. Now, one of the things I've observed is, unfortunately, a lot of people will just effectively, open up the laptop, turn the camera on, and hope for the best. Now, that's got some merits maybe in terms of time saving, but with a little bit of investment in time, what can people do differently to maximize the environment, if you like, around a virtual meeting?
Well, you're right. I mean, we've all seen people staring down at you from above their so their laptop webcams, which is rather disconcerting to say the least. And not being able to hear them very well. Let's just face it, if you are going into a significant meeting, if you were to do it physically, you would normally stand up, move somewhere and go and be somewhere different and probably feel quite different about that particular moment in time. A lot of people will be sat at their desk all day long in front of that same laptop or in front of that same computer and then flip into the meeting without any kind of change in pace or energy. So simple things to think about are, what is your setup looking like? What is your environment like? And specifically, for example, if it's a significant meeting and particularly if you're talking to a number of people, get on your feet, because your energy levels will be very different than if you're still sat down squashed over your desk without being able to project your voice very well. But there are a number of other things you can do around the setup as well.
Okay, so let's talk about a few of those. So what will be perhaps your top 3 tips of things that you can make a difference to, that make a fundamental difference to how you come across virtually?
Well, Gareth, I think there's more than 3 things that you can focus on. So the obvious things around desk and setup, the lighting, interestingly enough, how you use your screen configuration, that's really important to think about. But also things like the quality of your microphone, because often your laptop microphone will be picking up other noises that are associated with the laptop itself, so it won't be very clear. The background that you have, which projects professionalism, but also good organization, but also the quality of a webcam. Very often a laptop webcam will not be good enough to be able to project you in a clear way on what will be a very small screen for many people when they're looking at you. There's more than 3 definitely, but there's a small number of things that you can really focus on.
So let's dive just a little bit deeper to think about, well, what difference does that make? So you mentioned a few things there. Let's talk a little bit about desk lighting and perhaps second screen. So talk to us about the impact those 3 things can make.
Well, first of all, if you are going to stand up when you're talking particularly to multiple people, you need to have a desk that is fit for purpose. And there's lots of different ways that you can do this. So a very cheap option would be to make sure that your webcam is at your eye level, so you're not looking down at your laptop by just putting it on a pile of books. That would be the kind of the one end of the spectrum, if you will. But if you move to the other end of the spectrum, get yourself a standing desk. If you're going to be on your feet a lot, get yourself a desk that you can crank up, or sometimes at a press of a button raise up, so that your whole working surface comes up at the same time, so that everything is easily organized. And in between those 2, you can get desk risers quite good value. In fact, you don't have to spend a lot of money on these things that actually help most of your equipment rise up at the same time. So you have an environment that's conducive to work. So desk is a really important place to start. You then mentioned lighting. One of the things that is really important to remember is that you are going to be visible in only a very small portion of your recipient's screen. So getting lighting working well for you is really important. So definitely have some kind of front lighting. If you have a daylight lighting, that's probably the best option, but remember that will be different at different times of day. So it may have the sun shining in at one point, it may be dark at another point. So you need to have some auxiliary lighting. And again, you can buy this very cost effectively and have a very simple ring light in front of you, or you can go for slightly more expensive options which light you from both sides, but make sure your lighting is absolutely top notch. And the final thing that makes a huge difference is the way your screen is configured. So the way that we've learned to work is actually having our main screen as a big screen, so you can multi-tile your windows and in fact have the people to whom you're speaking directly underneath your webcam, so that you can give the impression of good quality eye contact. That also gives you lots of screen real estate, if you like, to place other elements that you need to prepare to, for example, share during the meeting or have as references. And then you'd have your laptop probably off to the left or to the right of that screen for things like your calendar and so on, which you might need to refer to during the meeting. But your main screen worked hard directly in front of you. So screen set up, probably 2 screens, maybe even more. Okay, lighting, cost effective, but super important to get right. And then also thinking about how you're using your desk environment so that it's conducive to you running good quality meetings and you have everything to hand at the right level.
So the good news about that is that, you know, three things you can do something about. And yes, you could invest some, you know, some small amounts of money in to make a significant difference. But there are also some much cheaper, in fact, zero cost things that you can do, like as you mentioned, just putting your laptop on books to get it up to eye level that can make a significant difference at limited cost.
Yeah, lots of things you can do. Some of them very, very simple and very cost effective, but they make a huge difference.